Hey everyone, welcome to Statalist. Just wanted to post some help on, particularly for new people post here to Statalist. If you're like most of us, you've been reading Statalist or looking here, often when you search for help, you Google for help on how do I do something, Statalist answers come up. You've done this for a long time before going and posting, and now you've decided, hey, none of those actually fit my particular need, let me post a question. So just a couple of things. When we go here to the frequently asked questions, down here when we go down, it'll ask a number of things like please use your real name as you register. Please use a very descriptive title. Don't say the command didn't work, but it's very useful to say this is the actual code that I posted, and these are the results that I got. I'm going to talk a little bit about code delimiters and dataex because that seems to trip most people up. So when we go here, I'm just going to actually I'm going to show something here. Statalist uses something called BB codes, and those are like HTML codes. There's only two that you're going to use. Or actually one, usually, which is the code. So if I go here to forum and if I go now to create my new topic, you're going to want to use a descriptive title. That's very helpful. Here's our text editor. And so now you list your problem, and then you want to say, when I type, and now this is the code window, and it just wraps these code parameters here, which says this is where the code window is going to start and this is where it's going to stop. You can kind of move them around. So if I now go to sorry, I'm going to post that in. There's nothing fancy about these codes. So for example, I can actually just copy and paste them and do them again, and then I could also actually, if I wanted to, I could actually type them. In this case, it's not going to work, but if I then put the backslash, and so now I could I'm just typing some code I've got over in a do file that you can't see that's off screen. It doesn't matter if these are on the same line, and then these are three commands you'd run back and forth. You would never do it this way, but when you now go preview, you can see that I've got code windows, and I say, but then, right? And if I misspell, let's say I miss that thing, that end delimiter, it stops working, right? So that's those are the code parameters, but that's to make it easier for us to help you. It makes it a lot easier to read. The next one is posting some sample code or not sample code, but a sample of your data using dataex. So, if they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a little snippet of your data, 20 observations of your data is worth 10,000 words of you trying to describe it. I'm going to show you how to use dataex. Okay, so it's really easy. It's already built into Stata 15. If you're using an earlier version of Stata, you just type in ssc install dataex, and it's going to include it. And so then, if I now browse my data, you'll see this is some data I actually started to create to help somebody. And so if I actually drop now, well, I won't drop it. I'll just show you. So now if I want to do dataex, I just do dataex, and I'm going to do the 4 variables that she had. Okay, so it just spits this out, and you'll notice it says start copy starting from the next line. Well, that's because it's going to include this BB code, the code and that code delimiter. So now when I paste this, into, now when I post this onto Statalist, here it is. I would actually add, I kind of like to have here's the dataex command that I did, and I'll put a little thing there so that So you can use, you can highlight, and I can bold that, or I end up often making it green, just like it is in the do file editor, and so I can make it bold. Just shows up better. So the nice thing about this, when you've got some actual data there, is you can actually, I can take that data, clear it, the code will actually clear it out. So if you'll notice, there's nothing here now. This is empty. And if I paste it, it puts it in. It's even going to format that as the date. And now when I go look at it, right, I've got this data there. And so now let's say you said, look, I need a new variable that is coded to 1 if this ICD code, this is a medical code, if this ICD code contains the letter X. And so if that were the case, I'd come down here and I'd say, I actually have written this up, but if I said, let's say, I'm going to call this new variable has X, and I'm going to use the dummy variable or the indicator variable shortcut where I'm going to say, so string position in ICD. Oh, let me show you a cool trick that I just barely learned, which is if I start typing a letter and now I hit tab, Stata is going to give me this drop down of all the variables that sort of fit that. And so I can actually now say, oh, I want that. And I'm going to say if it contains the letter X, so if the position is greater than 0, so it'll be 0 if there's no match, it'll be 1 if X is anywhere in there, and I hit enter, and now when I hit brow, I'm going to say, oh, okay, so now, and then let's say the person said, well, I also needed by patient ID, how many times did they have one of these X codes, and that's really easy. So then I just say, I've actually done it right up here where I say, this guy right there, I'm going to do by ID, I'm going to use egen to do this count. And now if I say, let's actually list those out, and we'll separate it by ID. And so now you see, this person is in the data 4 times. I mean, 2 of these were on the same date, but 3 of those times have at least one X code. Down here 2, 1, this person didn't have any, right? So now the beauty of it is dataex allows me to easily import this data, and then, or somebody coming along to easily import the data and then play around with it. And this is great for you for a couple reasons. One is it's so much easier, and so more people are likely to help you because they see, oh, they've used dataex, it's really easy for me to do something. And then the second is it'll actually be with your data, so you can just plug in the code. And then the third is what dataex does, and we can do it for all the variables or just the relevant variables. Let's do this. Okay, so this is actually going to tell me that this is a number and that it's a date. But let's say I'm going to go over here now to, let me bring this over so you can see it. I'm going to show you how to create some random data. This is where I created those ICD codes. But let's say here's one where some stock data that somebody wanted to do some stuff with. And I've put in 2 dates. And now let's just say I've pasted this into Stata. I'm in the edit window. I'm going to put in the variable names. Okay, so you've got the date admitted. You'll see that they're red, so we know they're strings. And so now if I go to Stata and say, right, so now it is, these are strings. So now if I do dataex, it's going to tell me that this is, let's see, date admitted is a 9-letter string, a 9-character string, and this one is a 7. And so what it's going to say is that's going to clue somebody helping you. One of the most common reasons code doesn't do what you expect it to is Stata is expecting a number and you're sending it a string, or vice versa. So if you're trying to say, let me extract the year, what I want is the year out of this guy. So you say, let's see, what is that, year admitted? Is equal to year. And again, I'm going to use that little date admitted. And now it's going to give me a type mismatch because it's going to say, oh, I expected a number. And same thing if I tried to do this. Let's say I put two dates here, like date admitted, date exit. So if this were like patient data and you were trying to say, let's say, Jen days in hospital is equal to date exit minus date admitted. And it's going to say type mismatch. And it's going to say, well, I'm expecting you're attempting to combine or you're attempting to subtract a string from a number, right? So in that case, then you need to actually format that date. And so over here, I'm not going to go into it here, but if you want to convert those dates, then you want to do either this one or down here. You can stop here, but generally what I end up looking for is if you go type in for help date translation into Stata, then date time translation, it'll tell you how to convert it. And I generally don't have hour or minute or second of the day, but if you're working with 2-digit, it's going to explain down here. I end up having to look at this a lot, but again, you can go back to this do file explaining, how to do it if it's a 4-digit or a 2-year digit and so on. So just wanted to share why it's so important to use dataex. The code delimiters are there essentially to make it, to make it easier for people to read. Dataex this actually makes it uglier in my opinion, but it makes it easy, very, very easy for Stata to read. And so then if I'm looking for, so Owen posted a thing about his data here. This was a great question. And he wanted essentially he didn't know this, but he wanted to collapse it down to 1 line per week, right? And so all I did was I took in this data, right? So the dates are already here in no, they're not. They're listed as a number, but they are not, it's not a stated date. So here's the data that I did to convert his dates to a stated date, and then I took the week. I created these two dummy indicator variables, and then I collapsed it down, and when this is all done, right, I could actually stick this in a do file. And run it. And now I've created all of this. And then I can I'll separate that by, what was it, state. Right, and literally I just copied and pasted this into the Stata file output. But that's why dataex is so important, and that's why people say, hey, put your data in dataex. It's to your advantage to do it because you're far more likely to get help, and you're far more likely to get help that's going to help you. And then again, the metadata about it, hey, is this a string? Is this a real date? Is this a number? Whatever, is super useful for those trying to help you. So hopefully that is useful to you. I thought I would share it with you, and good luck, and we hope to see you on the list soon.